and they be having my thing in their mouth. This is what I see. They be having this is my thing. This is my dick. And this they mouth. All on it. All on my, bro. Get off my dick, bro.
So the psychology around Claressa Shields has been quietly under the microscope for months now. Listen to this. Not because people are openly hating on her, and not even necessarily because they dislike her, but because her behavior has genuinely left folks confused. And when confusion keeps showing up like that consistently, usually there's something deeper going on beneath the surface. Let's be clear. This isn't a diagnosis, and it isn't about sympathy. This is a straight-up behavioral analysis. Patterns don't lie, even when people do. When someone repeatedly mistakes criticism for attack, attention for love, and visibility for self-worth, it often signals an internal imbalance fueling those reactions. Claressa's struggle doesn't seem to be about confidence. It looks more like emotional containment. Highly successful people who never master self-soothing often end up outsourcing their self-worth to the public. And when the public's response falls short of what they expect, the emotional fallout hits hard. That isn't hate, that's psychology. For months, people have labeled Claressa as confident. But hold up. What if what we're actually seeing is a pendulist, identity confusion, and external validation playing out live? What it looks like is a grown woman who allegedly struggles to separate friendships, romantic relationships, and her self-image. And that is where the lines start to blur, and the confusion becomes almost tangible. Before Claressa's current relationship with Papoose, a lot of people remember her being engaged to a man named Tony Rich. Listen to this. There were noticeable overlaps in timelines that raised eyebrows back then, and now more details about that chapter have surfaced. Tony Rich is a personal trainer from Flint, Michigan, and by most accounts, he fit a familiar mold: socially active, image-conscious, and extremely comfortable around women. They were together for about 4 to 5 years while Claressa's career was skyrocketing. Big deals, major money, and huge visibility. Like other relationships linked to Claressa, Tony was reportedly involved with someone else when they first met. Claressa allegedly entered as the side woman before stepping into the main partner role publicly. What stood out then, and still stands out now, was the clear imbalance. Claressa was the financial engine in that relationship. It's widely reported she invested heavily in Tony, backing his ventures, helping build his brand, and buying major assets. Whether that support was matched equally, only the people directly involved can say. But the pattern feels familiar. It mirrors what many think they're seeing now: a highly driven woman stepping into the provider role again, emotionally and financially investing in a man whose professional footing seems far less secure. In psychology, this is called over-functioning in romantic partnerships, when one partner ends up compensating emotionally, financially, and structurally for the other.
Nike Dunks with a little paisley print going on. And lots of pristine jewelers and Sam Diamond jewelers. Oh, my Van Cleefs.
Give me that mother. I'm gonna throw one to the back so y'all can. Oh my goodness. And I got my Van Cleefs. Christmas gift from my man.
Now, looking at her situation with Papoose, from the outside, Claressa seems to be stepping into the provider role once again. Hold up. There also appears to be a noticeable effort to compete, to prove she's more desirable than Remy Ma. When someone relies heavily on external validation, that dynamic can get intoxicating. Building up a man can start to feel like proof of your own worth, and earning love can feel safer than simply expecting it. Claressa's background plays a big role here. She grew up in a troubled environment where consistent parental support and affection were missing, and that kind of foundation shapes how adult relationships play out. To be fair, Claressa is far from unattractive, but public perception carries heavy weight when someone is highly influenced by how they're seen. The issue isn't her looks, it's how her behavior frames them. The energy she projects, wardrobe choices, and public antics all undercut what could otherwise be appealing. From a psychological perspective, this aligns with compensatory behavior, a constant need to be perceived as the dominant presence in the room, even at the cost of dignity or stability. That pattern tells the real story. Now here's where the dynamic gets even more layered, and I want to be clear, what follows is alleged, coming from sources close to her inner circle, and analyzed strictly through a psychological lens. For a long time, people have talked about Clarissa's stylist and close companion, Nigeria. She's always present, and that's been a constant throughout. Even members of Clarissa's own family have openly voiced discomfort with just how involved Nigeria seems to be in her personal life. Hold up. At one point, Clarissa's sister, Brianna, publicly spoke out about Nigeria in a very heated and emotional moment, and it grabbed attention, not just for how she said it, but because it hinted at deeper tension behind the scenes. According to one source, Nigeria was allegedly romantically linked to Tony Rich during the time he and Claressa were together. That claim isn't verified. However, a different source, someone with direct ties to both parties, alleges something else entirely. This source claims that Claressa and Nigeria themselves were romantically involved. Again, this is alleged, but it suggests their bond went beyond friendship and professional closeness. The same source further alleges that Claressa introduced Nigeria into her relationship with Tony as a third party. There were reportedly times when visitors to Claressa's home would find Tony and Nigeria in bed together, while Claressa moved around the house as if this setup were normal. Whether true or not, this allegation helped certain long-standing questions click for a lot of people. If accurate, it points directly to relationship triangulation, a psychological pattern where intimacy is maintained through a third person rather than through direct emotional security between partners. And when you zoom out, this pattern doesn't stop there. Looking at how Claressa publicly validates her current relationship, much of that validation seems to come through comparison, specifically through Remy Ma. The intimacy isn't just about the relationship itself, it's about positioning.
She did this because of this person. She did that because of that person. If I wear my hair a certain way, if I wear some clothes, y'all say I'm copying somebody else. But then y'all say in the same breath, but she can't dress. Most of the stuff I go to the store and pick out myself and put it on. So I'm not copying nobody. But as far as in me rapping, go on my YouTube. I'm gonna put the link on here. I've been rapping for almost 3 years. I didn't just start this. I've been rapping. Why? Because I do what the hell I want to do. Like I've been doing what I want to do forever. I got rap videos. I've been in the studio. I got songs. I had a listening party the week of my fight. I do what I want to do when I want to do it. Nobody is making me do anything. And I'm not trying to be like nobody because, baby, GWOAT is original. The GWOAT is original. I'm the first woman to ever use the word GWOAT. I'm original in everything I do.
Another woman is almost always part of the emotional landscape. Listen to this. Sometimes she shows up as a rival, sometimes as a reference point, sometimes as an unspoken benchmark. This also helps explain Nigeria's continued proximity, not just as a stylist, but as someone deeply woven into Claressa's private world, personal as well as professional. When triangulation, punishment, and identity diffusion overlap, the result is often a relationship ecosystem built on secrecy, power imbalance, and fear of abandonment. So whether Nigeria is a keeper of secrets, a former romantic partner, or simply a symbol of unresolved attachment, her role matters. Healthy relationships don't rely on constant overlap, blurred boundaries, or unspoken arrangements. And in the real world, having another woman constantly present around your partner, at home, at work, at the gym, in daily routines, raises serious questions. Even if nothing inappropriate is happening, that level of closeness invites instability. This doesn't mean Claressa lacks strength. Her struggle isn't power, it's security. That insecurity seems rooted in early emotional experiences where consistency and reassurance were missing. Until that core issue is addressed, the same tension will follow her into every relationship, regardless of who the man is. Now, this is where the psychology starts speaking loud and clear. Alongside these relationship dynamics, there's a visible pattern of mirroring behavior. For those unfamiliar, mirroring occurs when someone feels uncertain about their own identity. So they start borrowing traits from someone they see as already accepted, already chosen, already valued. Listen to this. In Clarissa's case, that borrowing seems to be coming straight from Remy Ma. This goes beyond fashion, though the styling similarities are hard to miss. It shows up in hair choices, presentation, body language, and even the way sex appeal is performed publicly. This isn't casual influence, it's aspiration in motion. Mirroring isn't about admiration, it's about seeking validation through resemblance. And when someone mirrors another woman connected to their partner, it almost always points back to insecurity, not competition.
That girl gay. Why you froze right there though? Oh, okay, ain't no trying, you doing it.
My friend has a present for you.
Give me 1 second, hold on.
This doesn't make Claressa weak, it makes her human, hold up, but it does reveal a woman still searching for internal grounding, still measuring herself against external standards, and still trying to earn love through performance rather than stability. Here's the real kicker, and psychology is crystal clear on this. Mimicry without embodiment never lands the same. When Remy does it, it feels natural, effortless, fully aligned with who she is. When Claressa does it, it reads as forced, like a costume that doesn't quite fit. Forced sex appeal isn't confidence, it's compensation. Another red flag? The constant self-praise. Lines like, "I'm that girl," or "I'm unbothered," repeated over and over, aren't signs of true self-assurance. Psychology calls that externalized validation. People who are genuinely confident don't need to announce it or promote it. They simply exist. When someone is loudly branding themselves as sexy while quietly borrowing another woman's aesthetic, what you're really seeing is identity diffusion, a shaky sense of self that leans on outside approval just to stay steady. And this is where Nigeria comes back into focus. If your stylist is also your closest companion, and that same stylist keeps presenting you in looks that mirror another woman tied to your relationship, it raises a very grown question. Listen to this. Is this genuine support, or is it sabotage disguised as loyalty? A real friend doesn't style you into comparison. A real friend helps you step into your own identity. So what role is Nigeria actually playing here? Because she's clearly shaping the image that's being pushed out to the public. Here's the truth. Sexy isn't something you have to declare. Sexy is something people recognize on their own, without a prompt. When someone works overtime trying to convince the public, most of the time they're still trying to convince themselves. Claressa does not lack talent, that's obvious. Her accomplishments speak for themselves. What she lacks is grounding. And yes, a little more social awareness wouldn't hurt either. But until she figures out who she is without measuring herself against another woman, every relationship and every outfit will feel like an audition instead of an expression. This isn't about tearing her down. It's about pointing out that performance can never replace self-definition. Until that foundation is built, the cycle keeps repeating. Here's the real bottom line, and this is where everything clicks. None of this exists in a vacuum. The relationship patterns, the image shifts, the public behavior, the emotional reactions, they all trace back to one core issue, a lack of internal security. When someone doesn't feel anchored in who they are, everything becomes external. Love becomes something to earn. Attention becomes something to chase. Identity becomes something to borrow. That's why the same cycles keep repeating. Different people, different settings, same emotional blueprint. The provider role, the comparison, the third-party energy, the constant need to prove desirability, none of that is about romance. It's about reassurance. It's about trying to quiet an internal voice that never fully settled. And when you live like that, relationships stop being spaces of rest. They become battlegrounds, performances, power plays. You're not connecting, you're competing. You're not loving, you're managing perception. Every interaction turns into a test of worth. This is also why public opinion hits so hard. When your sense of self is built on outside reaction, criticism doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like rejection. Silence feels like abandonment. Praise becomes a temporary high that never lasts long enough, so you keep chasing the next hit. What makes this sad, not funny or messy, is that none of this diminishes Claressa's accomplishments. Her talent is real. Her discipline is real. Her success is earned. But achievement can't replace emotional grounding. Trophies don't teach self-worth. Money doesn't heal attachment wounds. Visibility doesn't resolve identity confusion. Without that grounding, even winning can feel hollow. Even being chosen can feel unstable. Even being desired can feel unsafe. This is why comparison is so dangerous. The moment you measure yourself against another woman, especially one tied to your relationship, you've already lost your center. You stop asking who you are and start asking if you measure up. That question never has a satisfying answer. The truth is, security doesn't come from being the loudest, the flashiest, or the most talked about. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is watching, when there's no audience, no rival, no one to outperform. Until that work is done, the same patterns keep showing up. New relationship, same tension. New look, same insecurity. New chapter, same storyline. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness, because awareness is the first step towards change. Without it, growth stalls. Strength isn't the issue here. Power isn't missing. What's missing is safety within the self.